Sideline! Touchdown! Pass is intercepted in the goal line. Up for the blocked by James! Curry way downtown.
And welcome to the 2020 podcast, where hindsight is 2020, but the takes here are always 10 out of 10. If you are a returning listener, we do appreciate you checking out our brand new Friday night show live, or if you're not checking out live, you're checking out Saturday or Sunday. Every single week when we going live on Friday nights for the NBA. If you are brand new here and you don't have any idea what we're talking about, who we are, we're the 2020 podcast. We talk about the NBA and the NFL. If you're more geared towards the NFL or you want to check that out too, check out when we go live on Mondays or Tuesdays, depending on our schedules. We do still work a normal 9 to 5. Those episodes will be coming out the very next day. Full episodes on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, the clips for all those on YouTube, and then short form content on YouTube or on TikTok. I am your host, Jacob. This is the co-host, Drew. And before we get into the NBA show at all, lots of topics to cover today before the regular season actually starts. Drew, how you doing?
What the hell is a 9 to 5?
or a 7 to 7, 8 to 8 for you?
9 to 9, homeboy.
Well, I'm more 6 to 2, so it's
I can't.
the same, you know.
I count the commute.
You count the commute on top of it. How are we doing on this beautiful Friday night?
We're good. If we could get these production problems solved and have a successful podcast, and I still don't show us live on YouTube. I don't know if that's good or bad, but we're here and we're recording, and it would be just in our nature to do a 2-hour NBA show and then realize that it was total trash and we had to scrap the whole thing. So I'm excited for that.
Well, I can tell you for sure it is live. We have YouTube comment already in the books, and I do see it on my end live streaming. So,
okay,
looks like we're all good to go. And you look quite clear. Okay, no more technical difficulties. Just looks like I can't see you on my screen. So,
all right.
So
well, put me up on your other screen. That way you could see when I'm doing some weird crap.
Yeah, if you're waving your hands or flipping me off or something.
Unfortunately,
Drew just looks like this.
Unfortunately, there's no NBA jersey I can bust out that recently knocked the Celtics out of the playoffs, because they are your reigning, defending NBA champions. So I'm just going to crawl back into my hellhole of Sacramento Kings fandom and go from there.
And that's all right, because the very first team that we're going to go ahead and talk about tonight is going to be the Mavericks. And specifically, Drew, the main question is how do the losses and additions to this new Mavericks team affect them during the season? They're coming off of a almost Cinderella run right to the finals. They end up losing to the Celtics there, thankfully. Main addition for this team is definitely going to be Klay Thompson. Main loss for this team is going to be Derrick Jones Jr. They also signed Naji Marshall, brought in Quentin Grimes, Spencer Dinwiddie. Some of those latter guys are just for depth. And then primary ball handling when Kyrie and Luka are off the court for Dinwiddie at least. So with the addition of Thompson, sending away Derrick Jones Jr., how does all that really affect the Mavericks team? Can they make another run, or are they going to fall short?
I think a lot of it depends on what you think of the run they made last year. Like, was that just one of those, the team caught fire at the right place, the right time, and they went crazy? Or was it, you know what, they had it all along. They just had to figure out the pairings they had on offensive defense. And once they put it together, they ran all the way through to the finals. Depending on your mindset on that, an addition like Klay Thompson could put you over the top, or it's just, you know what, they were Cinderellas at the ball. They're turning back into a pumpkin, and they are not going to have the same success this season. And as you could see, I kind of danced around your question by not quite giving you an answer, because as a basketball fan, I don't know how to judge what the Mavericks did last year. It was very clear that they were severely overmatched in the NBA Finals. They had no chance at winning that series, which we knew all year the Celtics were taking home the trophy. You may not have thought that because you're a nervous fan, but all year the Celtics were the best team, and the Mavericks ended up getting smashed in the finals. So it's hard to judge their season and the run to the playoffs they had, the playoff run they had, because I'm not exactly sure if it was real or not, and I don't know if the Klay Thompson addition moves the needle too much for me in that respect.
Yeah, and the thing is when this gets clipped and if we put it out there for the Mavericks fans to go find, some of our biggest content has come from talking about the Mavericks, and it's not been in the most positive light, specifically talking about Luka, talking about the Mavericks free agency grades, and they have not been big fans of what we have said. Almost like they're like, Dallas fans, Cowboys fans too. On top of that, you get the kind of delusion and craziness that goes along with that. But for me personally, I hate the Klay Thompson signing, not because of Klay, but because of the perspective around Klay and who the Mavericks think they're getting. Maybe not the Mavericks, but the fans and who they think they're getting. This is not 2018, 2019 Klay, where he's this elite level defender, 11th in defensive player of the year voting, or second team all defense. He's not that type of guy anymore. He just posted his lowest steals per game and his worst defensive rating of his entire career. So even if you're not bringing him on for the defensive stuff, which I hope you're not going to, you're looking at Kyrie, not the best elite level defender, Luka, who doesn't really play a lot of defense. He shows flashes, I understand that, but he doesn't really play a whole lot of defense, just for the main fact of he carries the offensive load, right? That's who he is. But when on the offensive side of the ball, Klay just posted his second lowest field goal percentage and lowest 3-point percentage in his entire career when at least playing 60 games in the season. Now, when I say 60 games in the season, Sorry, I was just looking at your chat, Drew. When I say 60 games in the season, I'm just kind of cutting out the 32 games he played and got injured. So I'm a little frustrated with the Mavericks fans thinking that they're bringing in this elite level guy, that they're bringing in Klay Thompson of old. This is not who you're getting. You're getting a guy who's a little bit washed up. He's going to play the wing spot next to Luka and Kyrie, who we know, again, they're not the best defenders in the league. Okay. Luka, again, shows flashes, but he's not the best defender in this league. He doesn't play a lot of defense. It's almost like we're talking about 39-year-old LeBron James. He doesn't play a whole lot of defense.
Whoa.
He carries a lot of the offensive load on the other side.
Don't disrespect LeBron, sir.
I'm not going to be disrespecting LeBron.
I will not be having it.
But when we're talking about Klay for the offensive side, the positive here is he's going to be the third option on an offense. And yes, he's going to bring some confidence in the three-point shooting. The efficiency, I don't think, is going to be there as much. Hopefully, he shoots a little bit less because of the other offensive weapons that are there. But I think what he brings the most on the offensive side of the ball is the off-ball screens and the off-ball movement that he's used to with Steph and the Warriors. If they can implement a little bit of that with Luka and Kyrie and get all of them moving around a little bit more open shots for Luka. We know he can make the tough ones. We know he likes to make the tough ones. But getting Klay to get moved around a little bit more would probably be good for this team. And that's, I think, what he mainly brings to the team. It's not high-level three-point shooting anymore. It's not high-level defense. That's not who you're getting. You're getting a guy who can move off the ball, off-ball screens, and get other guys open. That's what we're looking at nowadays. That's why I have a problem with Klay. When you're looking at Derrick Jones Jr., how does the loss for that? Good.
I was just going to say, I'm super excited to see the splits about halfway through the offseason, and I think they're going to halfway through the season, I think they're going to show you, especially the on and off splits, I think they're going to show you that Klay really excels when he's on the court, not the field, when he's on the court with Kyrie, with Luka on the bench, as opposed to when he's on the court with Luka, with Kyrie on the bench. I think you're going to see severe sways in their off and on, their plus minus stats with that. I think that he's really just going to excel with Kyrie with the ball in his hands, and he may not be as I don't want to act like he's still not going to be a threat to shoot, but I just think it's going to look a lot better with Kyrie on the court as opposed to Luka. And realistically for the Mavericks, we're not doing a power rankings or anything tonight, but I imagine if I sat down and did, I would have the Mavericks behind Denver, behind OKC, behind Minnesota, which is probably kind of where they were at last year at this time. So you bring in Klay, And I don't think the expectations have changed much for this team. You're still in the world of contender-ish, but you're not the top flight of the Western Conference. And I think that really does take the pressure off of them as far as expectations go.
Yeah, I think I would agree with that. The biggest loss for this team was again, it was Derek Jones Jr. That should have been probably the biggest offseason priority for them. Derek Jones Jr. ended up signing with the Clippers, which we will talk about a little bit later, actually way later on a 3-year, $30 million contract. I've already kind of brought up what he brings like defensively. Derek Jones Jr. is a high-level elite perimeter defender. That's who he is. So getting rid of him, bringing in a guy who's not going to play a whole lot of defense or very efficiently is going to hurt them on the perimeter side a little bit. We don't know the Mavericks as this high-level defensive team, and I know they played a lot better defense in the playoffs, but I think the playoff run was closer to the Cinderella stuff, especially with Derek Jones Jr. shooting like 47% from three when he didn't do that in the regular season. PJ Washington shooting high from three. He didn't do that in the regular season. So a lot of these guys exceeding expectations in the most important times. And then all of a sudden their defense got a hell of a lot better in the most important times. I think it's a little bit more Cinderella run, but losing Derek Jones Jr., who was just elite level piece, sucks. But to combat that a little bit, you bring in Najee Marshall, who is a good defender, who shot the best 3-point percentage of his career last year. So you're kind of just like cloning Derek Jones Jr. and flipping it and giving him a little bit less of a contract, 3 years, $27 million. So a little bit less, but you're bringing a similar type player just in case you have to kind of make up for the Klay Thompson woes. That's how I view losing one guy and bringing in another.
I don't think that you win the NBA Finals. I don't think you make deep playoff runs in today's NBA without really, really good wing defense. And in losing him and your addition being Klay, your wing defense goes from what was a plus for your team to now a major. Between Luka, between Klay, the defense is something that concerns me. But again, the expectations really aren't there. I mean, I've looked at a lot of power rankings. I've looked at a lot of projections, and the so-called experts are all over the place with the Dallas Mavericks this year. I think it's just going to be one of those things where if they win 58 games, people will be like, okay, that makes sense. And if they win 45 games, that would be terrible, actually. That would be very terrible. If they win like 50 or 51 games, people would be like, yeah, that makes sense. So Dallas is actually a super interesting team to keep your eye on this year, because Luka, if he can play 70, 74 games this year, if Kyrie can play 70, 74 games this year, that's good. It's going to be huge for them. And I don't know, the Klay thing, he already played with Steph, one of the greatest shooters of all time, and he was still struggling the later years in his career. I'm not sure if the Luka, he's paired with Luka, that's going to be great. I'm more interested to see him paired with Kyrie personally.
Yeah, I think I'm in the same boat as you. In the GM survey stuff that we just saw come out in the last week, which we will talk about a little bit later, not this particular topic, but the Mavericks were one of the top teams that were voted on for hardest to really predict their season. I think you can go plus or minus on their games by 10. I don't know if they're not going to compete for a 1 seed. I think when you're talking about seeds 1 through 3, we're talking about the Thunder up there. We're talking about the Nuggets are still going to be competing pretty highly. The Wolves, even with the subtraction of Cat, I think is still going to be competing pretty highly. And then the Mavs are going to be somewhere in the top 4, 5-ish is probably where they're going to be sitting. Unless Klay just blows up and then all of a sudden he's the player that I'm saying that he's not anymore. Then we might be talking about them inside that top 3 or 2. But I personally don't see that. Do you see them somewhere inside that top 3 at all in competitiveness for seeding?
I see a lot of people putting them in the top 3. I have not transitioned to, as I have with the NFL, to NFL fan. I have not transitioned to that. I am still Kings fan. I'm still
right.
Kings are top 4 in the West this year. We're going to be legit. We're going to do great. And so I can't I can't get the Kings into the top 4 with leaving the Mavs up there.
Right.
So I'll fully put it out there. I am super biased homer here when it comes to the NBA stuff. And my heart's going to be broken if the Kings aren't good this year because I've already bought like 12 sets of tickets. I'm expecting to be at a lot of games and they haven't won a preseason game yet. So I see a lot of people putting the Mavs in the top 3. So we'll see.
Right. Yeah. Well, speaking about competitive teams and teams being on the top, let's go ahead and move on away from the Mavericks and let's move into the Celtics, the reigning defending champions. Now, the biggest question on everyone's mind for Boston right now in the moment is how is the time that Kristaps Porzingis misses, how is it going to affect the Celtics, right? How big of an impact is it going to leave on the Celtics team? He's dealing with a rare leg injury that he's not set to make his return until late November, early December at the very earliest right now. I know some of his earliest interviews in the past couple of weeks have been pretty optimistic about coming back maybe in the middle of November or the beginning. I don't think it's going to be anywhere close to that, especially if we're being very competitive, which we should be extremely competitive for that number 1 seed spot. The guys who are going to be filling that role is going to be Al Horford, Luke Cornett, and Xavier Tillman, who is taking a little bit of a better step, at least what he's shown in the preseason. I'm not the biggest Xavier Tillman guy. The assumption right now is that Al Horford will be the one starting. I think that there is a legitimate case to give a significant amount of time to Luke Cornett and Xavier Tillman a little bit more minutes and to really limit how much we're using Al in the beginning of the seasons and until really Kristaps comes back. I don't want to use him too much. I want to make sure that Al is conserved and ready to go as much as possible for the most important time of the season, right? Which is the playoffs, which we're assuming we're going to be the 1 seed. We're going to make that and we're going to make a deep run. We want to save him for that. He played a significant role in the playoffs. We want to see that same thing over and over again, especially if we have to face a team like the Sixers. Al Horford always matches up really well against Joel Embiid. We want to save a guy like that for the biggest moments. So for me personally, I think we should save Al, bring on Luke. I don't think it's going to affect us crazy. I think the spacing is going to take a hit because of what Kristaps can bring and limiting Al. If you bring Luke Cornett out there, you're not going to lose the rim protection. You're losing the spacing. That's what you're really missing on this team. I still expect Kristaps to come back onto a team that is the 1 or the 2 seed, the 3 seed at the absolute lowest by the time he comes back late November, early December. How do you see this affecting us?
I think the biggest effect that not having Kristaps for the Celtics is going to be the first 10 games when he comes back. That might be your worst 8 to 10 game stretch of the season as you're trying to fold him back in. But if you remember, I predicted that for the NBA Finals, and it didn't matter. He absolutely destroyed the Dallas Mavericks. Luke Cornett is certainly an interesting player because he's one of those weird, like advanced statistic, like darlings, where if you look at his advanced statistics, he's top in so many damn things, but he never has enough minutes to qualify for these things. And, offensive rebounding rate is just, it was like top 3 or 4. He was tied with Rudy Gobert last year, except for he just didn't play enough minutes for it. He's going to get a ton of playing time in the beginning of the season, in my opinion. And if he continues to, if he can, small sample size, if he can take that to the larger sample size and continue at the rate he's doing, then I don't think that you miss Kristaps all that much at all, which is a scary thought to think about. Like you, I still expect this to be a top 3 seed, if not top 2 seed, and then having the struggle part of the season just to fold Kristaps back into the get him back into the swing of things.
Absolutely. Luke Cornett right now he's appeared in 4 preseason games. He's averaging 9.6.5 rebounds, 1.8 assists on 73.9% shooting, which is like all within a foot of the rim, obviously, with how he plays. But if you can get that type of production out of Luke in a starting role, a 9, 7, and 2 type guy for just a temporary position, I'm not going to be mad at that at all. If you want to bring the spacing in there, you could bring on Xavier Tillman, who can shoot. He doesn't shoot super efficiently. He's somewhere around the 27-ish% mark for the 3-point percentage in the last season. But again, overall, I think the Bigs will play well enough to just continue to be the best team in the league when KP comes back, which again is a scary thought when you look at the entire roster of the team. I mean, Derek White, Drew Holiday, obviously JT, you got JB, you have Al, you have Luke Cornett. There's a lot, you got Peyton Pritchard. There's a lot to this team, and missing one of the better pieces, and then all of a sudden still being the 1 seed is a scary thought. But I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal moving forward.
I think that you're going to see another step forward for JB. I think that something that he did last year, he averaged a career high in assists. I think he takes a step forward again with that. And I was looking today at just the gambling odds for some of the awards, NBA awards. And your boy Peyton Pritchard was up there for 6th man of the year, which was interesting to me because, he did well last year, but I think he averaged like 8 points a game or something like that. But the reasoning for that, I was trying to find out why he was ranked, and I stumbled upon an article in The Athletic where they were talking about Drew Holiday and a long playoff run, and then he's in the Olympics, and maybe you just do not play Drew Holiday the amount of minutes that you would think early in the season or even midway through the season because you just don't need to. Saving him, saving Horford, doing these things with these older 30s players, and maybe that allows a Pritchard to step up and play a career high in minutes this year and really expand his scoring. So there's a lot of interesting wrinkles to this team, and there's a lot of ways for them to be successful, even if some things don't work out as well as you think. So, I mean, I know I keep texting you and poking jabs about the Knicks, but realistically, this is my prediction here on the podcast is how many championships do you guys have? 17, 18?
18.
This is your 19th championship season back to back, that Lakers-ish. Like that's the expectation here. Unless I think OKC is going to be really good, but their playoff, what they did in the playoffs last year, getting bounced and everything. I just don't think they're going to be that good. I just think the Celtics are really going to establish dominance this year early. Unfortunately, fuck the Celtics.
If you look at the minutes from last year, Drew Holiday played 32.8 minutes per game last year, while Peyton Pritchard played 22 minutes a game, which that was already his career high by far. So if you do see a closer minutes restriction, you could see Drew somewhere around the 27-minute mark, while Peyton Pritchard gets up there around that 27 mark as well. At least, like you said, kind of start the season. Once we get after the All-Star break, everyone starts kind of ramping up, and then we start limiting some of those bench guys a little bit more. Obviously, when the playoffs come, there's guys who just don't play all that much that you see a lot in the regular season. They just don't play in the playoffs anymore. It happens to everyone, happens all the time. But yeah, so you already brought up our next team, and that is the Oklahoma City Thunder. Kind of answered the question already, and I was going to ask you, are the Oklahoma City Thunder, now with all the free agent acquisitions that they've made, are they the team to beat in the Western Conference?
That's so disrespectful of the Nuggets for me to say this. And, I think Isaiah Hartenstein, he just broke his hand or something. So he's going to miss the beginning of the season. But then it's like he was a free agent acquisition anyway. So it's not like something that they had been prepared for and had as part of the team. I think my boy, Shay down there, I think he's going to I think the MVP odds for him are really, really good this year. And I would not be surprised, barring more injury, if this is not the number 1 seed in the West by a comfortable margin. It's another year older for Jokic. Jamal Murray has just not. He's been so good, but I think you search for a next level for a player like that, and the level he's been, a next level for Michael Porter, and I just don't know if they've gotten there. So, and then what? Minnesota just bounces Karl Anthony Towns out of town, and I love the DiVincenzo addition. I don't really know where. Big rumbling, bumbling, stumbling.
Rudy Gobert.
No, damn it. The came over from the Knicks, drafted by the Lakers. I always remember the stupid information. Julius Randle. I don't know where.
Yeah.
I don't know where all that fits in with them, so it's going to be super interesting. I'm hoping that Ant goes like super nuclear this year and becomes like, holy shit, that's the greatest basketball player in the world, because he is so fun to watch.
Yeah.
But I still think it's the Thunder.
With the Wolves thing, it's definitely interesting. You have guys like Julius Randle, and you have guys like Rudy Gobert, and the team composition is strange for Ant, where he's almost going to be forced to stay out of the paint a little bit more because of the way he plays. He plays super aggressive. He's a slasher. He lives and breathes driving in, and he's super explosive doing that, right? We see a couple of NBA players who are in that same type of degree, and now you're bringing guys who are, or a guy like Julius Randle who's clogging the paint, while Cat kind of, he brought spacing to that team. He is one of, if not the greatest big man shooter of all time. He's just in that type of realm. So getting rid of one of those spacing guys and then bringing in a guy who clogs the paint, it's a little bit difficult to see how it's going to work with Ant. But so that's the Wolves. When it comes to the Nuggets have a really, really short bench. Their bench depth is just, I think, not all there. I think, and then when it comes to Dallas, their bench is kind of unproven for the most part because of a lot of the guys that they've gotten rid of and some of the guys that they're now bringing in. It's kind of hard to see how all these pieces are going to be fitting together. So yeah, I think the Thunder are probably the team to beat. At least they're going to be that one seed more likely than not. I think we're on the same type of boat there, right? They won 57 games last year, and they won a playoff series. They don't need to do much to prove themselves, except just to drive past that point. They didn't need to go get all of this stuff, right? They didn't need to go get Alex Caruso and Isaiah Hartenstein. They could have just built off of who they had, right? Built off of Aaron Wiggins and Cason Wallace and Isaiah Joe and J-Dub and all these guys. Just continue to develop their best players, but they got one of the best rim protectors in the league in Hartenstein. Like you said, he's gonna be out like 5 to 6 weeks. So in the beginning of the season, and then Caruso, one of the best defenders, perimeter defenders in this league right now. So they're going all in. They're telling the league, hey, we surprised you last year. This year, don't be surprised, and we're getting better. So I think the starting lineup is probably going to be Shea, Alex, Lu Dort, J-Dub, and Chet. Not a whole lot of holes there on the starting lineup. Every single guy can shoot. Every guy can defend at a high level. They got a future MVP right there, maybe this year's MVP. I think the OKC Thunder are the team to beat in the West. I think it's by far. I think a lot of those teams, the Nuggets, might be slowly slugging down just because, again, not a lot to their bench. Their players aren't taking that next step up after winning a championship. And Dallas is just kind of hard to gauge on how good they're going to be. So I think that's how good they are. I think it's just solid. They're the team to beat. My number one thing about this team, who's going to be the primary ball handler and the offensive creator on this team once Shea goes to the bench? I don't know who it is. That's the biggest problem that they had last year. That's the biggest problem they have this year. I don't know who it's going to be. Do you have any guesses or estimations on who that guy is going to be? Because Alex Caruso isn't that type of guy, right? A guy they brought in. Does a guy step up on this bench team to be that guy? That's the problem I'm having.
Well, you're hoping that a Holmgren takes a step forward. You're hoping that a Cason Wallace takes a step forward. You really, really hope for Jalen Williams. Frankly, if you're looking at that roster and you're like, who's taking the next? You know what I mean? You hope it's Jalen Williams. It's funny because getting back into NBA mode here, you're talking about who's going to be that creator? Who's going to do that thing when he goes to the bench? I'm like, well, it's Josh Giddey, dude. Like, of course it's Josh Giddey. Oh, he ain't on the team anymore. It ain't Josh Giddey. So there is a little bit of a hole there. But I just think that's such a small concern when you consider the options to knock them off in the number one seed.
Yeah.
For many, many years now, Jokic has just been holy fucking awesome. Is he going to be holy fucking awesome this year? Jamal Murray's performance in the playoffs and then his performance in the Olympics hasn't been great. at least not to the level it needs to be. So we're just going to assume that now coming into the season, he's going to turn it on. Dallas is questionable. Like realistically, is the conversation centered around the Phoenix Suns? Like, is that like, can the Phoenix Suns, you know what I mean? Like, is that who we're talking about? Can the Phoenix Suns knock them off for the number 1 seed? Does anybody believe in that team outside of the owner? But with all the questions that there are out there, honestly, let me tell you this. What about the Pelicans? Why not? Point Zion. Yep. You know, of course, I think the Pelicans are the greatest team in the NBA because they beat us fucking 17 times last year in a row. So I may be, yep. You know, I may be, I don't know. I just feel like there's a lot of teams that the Phoenix Suns and the Denver Nuggets kind of feel like the twilight of those franchises. And it's sad to say, and maybe Jokic is good for another number of years, but what's Durant doing this year? What's Devin Booker doing this year? I won't mention anyone else because we might not talk. We might talk about them later, but and Budenholzer, it's just like when I think of if like snap judgments like our other podcasts. Okay, Booker, Durant, Bill, they're going to lead the league in blank. And I'm like, missed games? Like that's what they're going to lead the league in. They're going to lead the league in missed games. Like, can we count on this team? Probably not. The West is wide open. I'm picking the Kings. Let's fucking go.
The Kings are competing for the 1 seed this year. How this isn't a team that we're going to talk about, but I just kind of want to ask the question real quick: is how high does Houston go? Because Houston just barely missed the playoffs last year. I remember at the end of the season they were on a like really nice roll, and then the Mavs beat them, and then they kind of just like trickled off after that. How good is Houston this year? Did they make it in that play-in type thing? They didn't have Sengun, Şengün when they were doing that run. So
you can't see me shaking my head, but I'm shaking my head.
No, you don't think they're going to make it?
Memphis, the Lakers, the Clippers. Mm-hmm. We haven't even talked about these teams yet. The Golden State Warriors. The Lakers are going to make the playoffs, right? The Clippers, I mean, I love the Kawhi is out indefinitely. Yeah, no shit. Kawhi is always out indefinitely. The Warriors, like, they're not just going to waste away. They've tried to trade for everybody, right? They're going to trade for somebody. The Warriors are going to trade for somebody at the deadline, and him and Steph are going to go berserko.
Right.
Shit, it might be LeBron, if you believe the rumors out here. Every Warriors podcast is talking about how they're going to get LeBron. I don't know how that's going to work when the Lakers just drafted their son, so I wouldn't count on it. But I hate Warriors fans, just so you know. And I get so much crossover because of the 49ers out here that I have to listen to these Warriors fans. And it's like, grab the nearest screwdriver and put it into my eyeball, please. Exactly.
Moving off of the West and specifically the Thunder, before we move into the Suns, which we kind of already talked about it, I want to talk about the GM survey that came out in the last week. No, you're totally good. I want to talk about the GM survey in the last week. So there's 3 questions that, Drew, you wanted to really kind of touch on and have a discussion about. The first one in the GM survey was, if you're going to be starting a franchise today.
Let's do this one last.
Player in the NBA. This one last. Okay. You want to do the acquisition first or the head coach?
Whichever one you want. Let's just do the other one last.
Okay. Which one player acquisition will make the biggest impact? Paul George was 1 with 60%. Mikal Bridges and Karl Anthony Towns were tied at 2. Next was Alex Caruso. And then also receiving votes is DeMar DeRozan, Isaiah Harden as well.
Yeah, DeMar, baby.
So you agree with that one with Paul being number 1 for the biggest impact?
No. I mean, when was the last time Chris Paul. When was the last Paul George? When was the last time Paul George? Hey, Chris Paul's going to be an assassin for the Spurs this year. I'm telling you what, he's going to have so many lobs. I actually love that. But moving past him, because we're not talking about Chris Paul. When was the last time Paul George was a game changer?
When's the last time you were fearful of Paul George?
When he played for the Pacers.
Yeah. I mean, he was pretty good at OKC, man. He was like third MVP voting.
That's true. He was good there. But I'm just like, it's like, oh, the Nuggets got Russell Westbrook. Who cares? Like these guys get to this point in their career, and it's just like a tired old retread. Like I'm supposed to look at the Boston Celtics roster. I'm supposed to look at the New York Knicks roster and what they did last year, and I'm supposed to be worried about Paul George? No. How many games is he going to play, Jacob? How many games is he going to play? 60?
Ooh, I was going to say 63, 64. Yep, that was my ballpark.
How many games is his running mate going to play?
Maybe the same amount if he's lucky.
And hopefully they play the same 70. Hopefully they play the same games and they don't each, they miss like 35 games not playing together because of injuries. Like I get it. He signed for a lot of money. It was the big offseason acquisition. I just don't know. I can't tell you what moves the needle more. If you look at where they fell last year in the standings and where I expect them to fall this year in the standings, and can that team beat the Boston Celtics in the Eastern Conference Finals? I don't think so.
Yeah. No, if you were going to choose a guy on this list or not on this list, then who was going to make the biggest impact? Who was it going to be? Because I have one in mind. It's on this list. I think will make a bigger impact than Paul George, at least. I'm
a super homer, so I won't even answer this question. I mean,
Cat. I think Cat would probably be the biggest impact out of all these guys sitting here.
I'm surprised I didn't get more votes due to recency bias, but I just are the GMs really filling this out, or is it like some assistant GM? Because when it comes to the last question we're going to cover, if the GMs all fill this out, then 30% of the GMs in the NBA are morons and should be fired tomorrow. If I was the owner and I found out that a GM didn't vote for this guy to start the franchise with, I'd fire him. Are you stupid? Are you stupid? That's what I would ask. So we'll save that rant. That rant's coming. But yeah, I don't know. I'm going to say DeMar because the Kings didn't make the playoffs last year, and I think that they're going to compete for the 4th and 5th seed this year, and it's going to be the only thing that has stopped the Kings is because they get bogged down late in the fourth quarter because everybody knows that Domantas Sabonis ain't worth a shit in the fourth. Sorry, Kings fans, don't hate me. He doesn't do anything in the fourth quarter scoring. He doesn't score in clutch points. Malik Monk has these games where he goes for 40 and then he goes for 2. Kevin Huerter can't make a bucket to save his life. Keegan Murray is completely worn out by the fourth quarter because he's running around guarding the best offensive player on the other team. So what do? We go and sign the number 1 fourth quarter scorer outside of De'Aaron Fox in the league. Who are you going to guard with 3 minutes left? DeMar or De'Aaron? DeMar or De'Aaron? Plus, we got the Kendrick Lamar juju because we signed DeMar DeRozan. So it's all lining up, man. We're gonna win a playoff series this year, and I'm gonna throw a fucking parade.
All right, you're gonna just by yourself?
Yes.
I'm sure there's lots of other people who'll join you.
I'm gonna wear my DeMarcus Cousins jersey.
Oh my gosh. So like I already said, I think that Cat is probably the biggest one for me on this list, at least. I think especially you look at what they had last year and Mitchell Robinson and Isaiah Hartenstein, and being able to get that additional spacer in there, I think is huge for this team. The team composition right now for the Knicks is, really good. I mean, you have Jalen Brunson, Mikal Bridges, Josh Hart, OG Anunoby, and Karl-Anthony Towns. You got a lot of good defense and offensive creation on that team. Bringing in Cat with the perimeter shooting along with Brunson, I'm excited to see how the the pick and roll or the pick and pop is gonna look with those two guys there, because the pick and pop that wasn't there for the Knicks last year with the type of personnel that they had. This year it is. So it's gonna be kind of exciting to see how the Knicks actually perform. Hopefully they just don't perform well against Boston or any series against Boston. But personally, I think it's probably Cat. I think Cat's probably the biggest acquisition there, at least for impact that he's going to make on this team immediately. Mikal up there being tied with him. I like Mikal. He's cool. I think what the biggest thing that he brings to this team is the defensive side of everything. And you already have an elite level defender in OG Anunoby out there as well. So the defense looks really good, and you have a lot of offensive creation with Brunson and Cat sitting over there too. And then don't discount what Josh Hart can do, just randomly exploding for the night. Question, which head coach run? Good.
The head coach has history with Karl Anthony Towns, and a lot of people would tell you that he had bad history with him, that he didn't like him. Well, you don't go and make this trade if he doesn't sign off on it. And I think OG is a huge piece on that team, even bigger than Cat, on what they're going to do this year. So we'll see. I'm hella excited for the New York Knicks. I don't know why. I shouldn't be rooting for any New York team, but I'm excited.
It's a rarity. The next question on the GM survey is, which head coach runs the best offense? Number one is Rick Carlisle for the Indiana Pacers at 47%, and then Joe Mazzulla for Boston, Chris Finch for Minnesota, Steve Kerr, fourth place for Golden State, and then also receiving votes, Mark Dagnew. It's French. I always forget how to say it. For OKC, Michael Malone, Nick Nurse, Eric Spoelstra. How do you feel about this one? Do you think this one's kind of the correct one? I know you pointed this one out, which was kind of a surprise. Why did you want to point this out specifically?
Because I just don't know how much credit I give to your offense when it requires you to be a bottom 3 defensive team in the NBA. Because you can't win consistently that way.
For Rick Carlisle.
Yeah.
My team being Boston, I'm not sure how much I like Boston being second. You've seen the type of offense that Boston runs, and it's a lot of iso ball, and there's not really a lot of particular offense being ran there. I don't mind Chris Finch being up there in third. I don't mind not that much, but some of the defensive adjustments on that side is rough, but the offense is a little bit different. But if we're talking about defense, I don't think Chris Finch deserves to be up there because of the defensive adjustments, especially against the Mavericks, looked piss poor and looked awful because it was just non-existent. Who do you think deserves that number one spot? I don't hate the picks. I was just surprised by the percentage for Rick Carlisle. I was just like, really? Like, when I think about the best offenses in the NBA, I'm not exactly sure I just settle on the Pacers because they're just so god-awful defensively. Yeah, no, they're one of the worst defensive teams in the league. And, I mean, you don't want to give it credit because of the defense. I guess I get that, I didn't really mind the Indiana thing when I first was reading through it, when I was thinking about it, but now you bringing up how many votes do you get if you're bad on the other side, or just not just bad, just god awful on the other side. It's a good point to make. I'm not mad at you for making the at least pointing it out.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, again, it comes back to being a Kings fan. We had the best offense in NBA history 2 years ago by NBA rating, and we were god-awful defensively because of the way we ran our offense, and we didn't win that many games. You have to be a good defensive team. I'm just surprised at the recognition from the general managers when they are so bad defensively because of the way they ran their offense. It just surprised me. Like Oklahoma City, their offense, I expect, is going to be really, really good this year because their defense is going to be so freaking good. They could be historically good. Like, they had one of the best defenses in the league last year, and then what do? They go and get Caruso. Like, that's just, and they get rid of Josh Giddey, who was the biggest liability on their team defensively. I don't know. Defense leads to offense. I'm coaching in the 1970s, apparently, when it comes to the NBA stuff. But everybody's like far and away voting for Rick Carlisle, and it was curious to me.
When it comes to the Thunder too, and it's funny because they had Chet over there, and you would think that they wouldn't be one of the worst rim protection teams in the league, but Isaiah Hartenstein brings that with them, and so another addition on that defensive side, even with him, coming off of the bench is something that is crucial and it is big, and I don't mean like worst rim protection overall. It mainly came from the bench play was the biggest thing for the team, but again, bringing in Hartenstein. Again, out for 5 to 6 weeks, but he is going to make an impact on this team one way or another sometime in the middle of this season.
Can you imagine them deploying Caruso and Lou Dort on the wing with Holmgren and Hartenstein, and just like, are they going to hold the team to less than 80 points this year? Will that happen?
They're just Lou is.
I bet there's a prop bet for that. Yeah.
Lou is nasty, dude. He's a vicious defender. Alex is clean, but he's just so good. It just keeps everything. Alex Caruso is like more frustrating because it's like I'm trying everything I can, and this dude is just staying in front of me, and there's nothing I can fucking do about it. So, and I wonder, like, this more defense is going. God, now I sound like you. The more defense is going to like bring more offense for Shea specifically. Like allowing Shea to take a little bit of a step back defensively is going to allow him to do more offensively and create, which. He's already second favorite in MVP odds right now. I know for the GM survey, he was number one if they were going to guess on who the MVP was going to be this year. And I'd probably take that bet as well. That's who they're going to be. And I think Shea's probably has a very high chance to wrap up an MVP this year. Which,
agreed.
Mavs fans don't like because, they want to cry about Luka constantly. But
who should be pissed is Clippers fans.
Why?
Wasn't he a Clipper?
Yeah, Shea. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
How'd that work out?
Worked out great, dude. Kawhi was like, "Hey, I want Paul George on the team," and they're like, "Oh yeah, let's go ahead and trade this guy away. Let's get Paul George." And that other guy is now an MVP candidate and getting MVP votes. Oh, by the way, they were the number 1 seed in the West. Oh, by the way, Paul George is already gone. Oh, by the way, Kawhi's not even going to play for the whole year.
Yeah. By the way, that dude led the team in steals last year, led the league in steals last year. Could you imagine that combined with Kawhi and the way he used to play defense back when he gave a fuck? That would have been deadly.
It's a long time ago.
But no, James Harden. Get James Harden. Get Russell Westbrook.
Oh, yeah, dude. We're going to talk about
You got to build that arena out there in LA. You got to build that arena.
Sell tickets, dude. Hey, dude, all it is, it's Mark Davis and the Raiders building their stadium out in Las Vegas. You're just trying to sell tickets. It might not be
at least
fans.
Yeah, at least that shit gets filled up. There's the Raiders stadium is sold out every weekend.
That's true. Absolutely. Last question is, and here's your rant. If you were starting a franchise today and could sign any NBA player, who would it be? Number 1, Victor Wembanyama with a 77% vote. Shea at 10%. And Jokic also at 10%, Luka at 3%, which basically means 1 GM voted for Luka.
Yeah, who the fuck is voting for Jokic on this? Jokic he's older, yep. He's fat and plotting. He's a great basketball player. But you're starting your franchise today with that. You know what that means? That means that there's a general manager on the Eastern Conference that never stayed up late enough to watch Wembanyama play.
Yeah.
Like, he can be the best defensive player in the NBA. He could be the best offensive player in the NBA in a number of years. Like, it blew my mind even reading that. Like, I read the survey. I didn't pay attention to the percentages because the name seemed right.
Yeah.
But then when I went back and read it again and brought it up to this podcast, I that just stood out to me. I'm like, how is that not like, I get SGA. I do. I get it. And if the Thunder voted for SGA and he had 3%, that's cool. But SGA over Victor, that just seems outlandish to me.
Yeah. The thing is with Victor is he's already, if we're being honest, he probably should have won Deep Boy last year. He's the favorite for Deep Boy this year. He is probably going to average somewhere around the 25 to 28 points per game mark. What did he average last year? 22, 21, somewhere around there. I I don't know how you go with anyone else. I'm right there with you. I don't, I listen to a lot of different media and a lot of different podcasts and a lot of different information. And I was listening to a specific podcast, and they were talking. It was a Dallas Mavericks based podcast, and I was listening to them talk about this specifically because I wanted to kind of get their take about Luka getting 3%. It's one GM. And with this survey too, by the way, GMs are not allowed to vote on their own players or teams. That's the rule. So someone else, not Dallas GM, ended up voting for Luka. They were so upset that only one person voted for Luka. You shouldn't be upset. I don't know. Like, Victor does everything on both sides of the court. He's 7'5". He does not. I heard it today. He has fictional height. The man should not exist. He should not be walking this earth. He's alien, and he does. And he's playing basketball, and he's dominating already. And I don't know why you would go any other direction. But I'm in the same boat as you. It is just kind of confusing. And again, same thing with Jokic. He's older. The age thing. He's not going to be on this list next year or anywhere close. So yeah, I'm right there with you.
Good.
I did feel like arguing today. Actually, you just scared me into being with you. I talked about that we're going to be talking about the Suns, and question is how is Bradley Beal's health going to affect the dynamic and the success of this Suns team? Bradley Beal dealt with a wide array of injuries last season, including back, nose, and knee problems that caused him to miss 29 regular season games. His absence in the NBA's most priciest trio last season was felt. And it might not just be like for Bradley Beal's ability alone, but this is also because of the lack of depth that was on the Suns bench last season. Now, with Bradley Beal and his health, should Bradley Beal be brought off the bench at any point during the season? I know that it's not going to be the best look for your fans or your signings because he's a $50 million player coming off of the bench. Probably not the best thing. You're conserving his health for the playoffs. I don't think it'd be the worst idea in the world. Your bench still isn't super duper deep. You want to make sure you conserve this man for the playoffs, and you have other options there on that team. Conserving his health, to me, is the most important thing for the team. Unless you just start dropping games, it's not working out him being on the bench. I think you should probably take him off the bench at some point or another during the season. I'm not sure how you're going to feel about this, or if you even think he's going to be healthy this year. What are your thoughts about the entire thing?
I just off the bench, on the bench, starter, not starter. Is he going to be healthy? Is my first question. The second question is their offense was god awful last year. There's so many stats about them making more field goals than the opposing team and then losing by 11 points because they don't know to shoot the three ball. They're like they're in love with the mid-range game.
And they suck perimeter defense is awful for them.
And who the fuck is playing point guard?
Tyus Jones, which is probably their best. It's the only free agent acquisition they could have had at point guard. It's not a bad free agent acquisition.
Is it a good free agent acquisition?
I think it's better than having no point guard. The biggest issue that they had this year was no perimeter defense and then no one to actually run the point.
Yeah, I mean, sure, I bought a 1985 Geo Metro today so I could drive to work. It's better than fucking walking to work, but it's still a night.
He had more assists per game than Devin Booker did, and Devin Booker played point guard all last season. So
Devin Booker's a shooting guard. If I try to
shooting guard,
that's like trying to mow my lawn with a weed eater. It's just not effective.
I agree with you. That's why you bring in Tyus Jones to run the point. I'm with you there. We're on the same team.
And I just honestly, like, if you told me to point out a Frank Vogel team and then a Mike Budenholzer team, are those even two separate people? Are those the same people? They might be the same people. I'm just every time I raise my voice, the lights start flickering weirdly. I'm like, oh man, maybe I'm drawing in the energy of the house or something like that. But honestly, I keep looking at these rankings and I keep seeing people with the Suns at second, third, and fourth. And I'm just like, are they smoking crack or do I just not like, what are we doing? Like, how many games does Booker play this year? How many does Bill play this year?
Mm-hmm. I think
I won't slander the other guy. I won't say anything bad about him, but
the way I see it for this team is that there's only a couple of spots that are locked up for starting positions, right? There's Devin Booker, there's Kevin Durant, and there's Nurkic, right? Those guys are locked up for the starting roles, right? They're shoo-ins. There's 2 starting spots left. That's for Tyus Jones, Bradley Beal, and Grayson Allen. Grayson Allen had a career year last year, leading the league in three-point percentage and having a career year highs in almost every single statistical category. And he played in like 75, 76 games last year. He started in almost all of those except for one, I believe. So he had a really good year. Again, led the league in three-point percentage. He was fantastic. Do you give a starting spot up to him? You bring in Tyus Jones to the starting point guard role. Let Devin Booker play shooting guard. You have a wing spot open. KD at the 4, Nurkic at the 5. Who do you put there at the 3? Do you put Bradley Beal there? Or do you put Grayson Allen there? Who's your 6 man? If you were the GM today, who's your 6 man? Or are you going to choose Royce or O'Neal or something?
What's wrong with Royce? I like Royce.
I think there's better options than Royce O'Neal.
I think with a new head coach coming in, the wild card here is going to be they have a weird ass owner, but Bradley Beal has to prove to me that he's still a high level player in this league. He needs to prove to me that he still brings the qualities to the basketball court that can help a team win.
Yep.
Because I know what Devin Booker is all about. I know what Kevin Durant is all about.
Yep.
What's Bradley Beal been all about the past couple of years?
Have you ever watched a Wizards game in the last decade?
I know that John Wall used to do the Dougie.
Yeah, that's about as far as it goes. After John Wall had went away, I don't think anyone really watches the Wizards at this point, unless you want to laugh at Jordan Poole and Kyle Kuzma. These days.
Kyle Kuzma, yeah.
That's fun. I mean, everyone can do that. If you want to go watch Alex Sarr now go play for Washington, if you want to keep up with the rookies, and one of the worst rookie classes that the NBA has ever had. But again, I've already kind of expressed my opinion on this. I think Beal at some point or another, they should experiment with Beal coming off of the bench, Grayson Allen starting, flip-flop those 2 guys. I think Tyus Jones should start at the point. That's my starting lineup. Allen and Beal are going to flip-flop, experiment with it, see which one works the best. The perimeter defense is going to be the main problem with this year. I don't know if they're going to address that. I know some people are super excited. If you're one of those people that gets really hyped up about all the preseason videos of them passing it back and forth, they passed 4 times on a fast break. Congratulations. I don't care about that shit. You care about the same. You care about Ben Simmons working out on the offseason too. Those are the same type of people who get excited over that shit. None of that shit matters to me. The Suns need to prove that they can actually play defense on the perimeter. That's what matters.
Don't be fucking taking shots at me just because I've watched 17 hours of Sabonis and DeMar DeRozan dribble handoffs, okay? Don't be taking shots at me. It looks good. It looks damn good, okay?
Do you have anything left on the Suns, or do we want to move on to your team?
Yeah, no, I don't expect Bradley Beal to stay healthy. I don't expect Durant to stay healthy. These guys are entering the twilight of their careers, and if they're all healthy and they play 70-plus games, maybe they'll win 55 of them. But those aren't my expectations currently.
Agreed. When it comes to your Sacramento Kings, how does adding DeMar DeRozan help the Kings' playoff aspirations? And if you want to go full fanboy, this is your opportunity.
We going to the finals, G. What's so funny? I demand your fucking respect. What's so funny? We are literally the Kings. Kings. Do you understand me? Kings. What the fuck is a Celtic? We are the Kings.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
All right. That's over with.
You good? You got it out of your system now?
I'm happy.
Realistically, what does DeMar do for you guys that you guys didn't have last year, now him coming in?
I think Harrison Barnes was super, super consistent. He was that dude where if you haven't scored in 3 or 4 possessions, he would get you a bucket. On the flip side, he was a god-awful defender, and he never could hit the big shot. a lot of respect to Harrison. He did a lot of great things in Sacramento. But as I mentioned earlier, solving the fourth quarter problem for the Kings, solving the crunch minutes things, the problem for the Kings, De'Aaron Fox won clutch player of the year. The first year it was an award. I think DeMar was second. He's played a record amount of games in the last X amount of years. He's always on the court. He never misses games. He's always healthy. He scores. The dude is he's his baseball card, right? Like that's what they say. It doesn't matter what this guy is hitting. If he's hitting 197 at the plate, this month, at the end of the season, he'll be the same numbers that are on the back of his baseball card. He's the same way. And I just really envision a team trying to stop De'Aaron Fox in the fourth quarter and then having to also try to stop at the same time a mixture of Malik Monk and DeMar DeRozan. And it just seems like it's going to be a really tough thing for teams to do. Now, the flip side of that is the spacing. There's been talk out of Kings camp that they want Domantas Sabonis to shoot 4 to 5 threes a game. That's not because they think he's a 40% 3-point shooter. It's because they need fucking spacing. Yeah. So if Kevin Huerter comes back healthy, if Trey Lyles comes back healthy, these are all players that can stretch the field. Trey Lyles has been really consistent from 3 in recent years. Mm-hmm. We all know what Kevin Huerter's all about. The team's offense should be fantastic. The flip side of that is, can they be? All the Kings have to do is be top 15 defensively, top 18 defensively, because they're going to be top 5 offensively, top 6 offensively. That could lead to, they just need the goddamn 6th seed. That's what I have the Kings penciled in. Like I said, I've bought a bunch of tickets. I expect them to be a really fun watch this year. I just, the fit with the spacing, and the fact that they've lost every preseason game, that let's not overreact to that. But I do expect the Kings to make the playoffs, which is a foreign concept for most Kings fans. I expect them to be really good. Yeah. De'Aaron Fox had the opportunity to sign a 3-year, $150 million extension this year, and he passed it up because if he makes all NBA again, he gets to sign a 4-year. And I think if there's another thing he could do, he could sign like a 5-year, $300 million extension if he hits another. I don't even want to think about that because then the Kings won't be able to pay anybody else. But I think that they they're better than the Warriors. They're better than the Lakers. They're better than the Clippers. Are they better than the Pelicans? Fuck no. The Pelicans own us. God, I'm so scarred from that shit. So yeah, I expect them to make the playoffs this year.
Luckily, when it comes to defensively, you guys finished 14th in the NBA last year with a 114.4 defensive rating. But when Keon Ellis ended up cementing himself into the rotation for the final 22 games of the season, you guys actually had a defensive rating of 108.6. And for reference, Minnesota had a defensive rating of 108.4, which led the league. So in those final 22 games, you guys stepped it up and you guys played really well on that defensive side. And obviously, DeMar DeRozan is not bringing the defensive stopping power that, maybe you want. But you guys did bring in a couple other guys. How do you feel about guys like Jordan McLaughlin, Alex Len?
The worst part of Alex Len last year was that for some reason Mike Brown decided to give minutes to JaVale McGee on occasion. That didn't seem to make any sense. The year before, we turned to him in the playoffs. That's true. Shackton. Yep. I don't think there's too many other. Apparently we did an absolute steal in the draft by drafting Devin Carter, and he's not even going to be healthy for God knows how long. Herter's coming back, Trey Lyles. I don't think the offseason acquisitions outside of DeMar DeRozan were all that significant outside of the fact that we were able to re-sign Malik Monk. That was absolutely fantastic. He re-signed early, which allowed us to attack free agency in different ways. And again, with a lot of these teams, we talked about it with OKC. I've said too many times. I'm getting nervous. It's the Kings. I want to see what the development of Keegan Murray looks like this year because he killed it his freshman year, his rookie year with the Kings. He broke the 3-point rookie record, but he was barbecue chicken on the defensive end. By the end of last year, game in and game out, he was, we just saw him in the preseason game. He locked down Steph, right? Yeah. he was the number one defender. He was basically put on the best player on the other team, game in and game out. And if he can bring that level of defense this year, while also taking another step in the consistent game of his, it's the Kawhi Leonard thing, like super great defensively, super great offensively, what that brings to a team. And can he elevate himself to a third option? Because if you're looking at De'Aaron, and then you have DeMar, and then you have Keegan, and then there are going to be the nights where Malik goes for 37, I just don't know how you beat that. But we can't have the Keegan where he goes for 18 and 8 one night, and then the next night he goes for 6 and 2. It just has to be more consistent than that. Yep. And I'm a huge believer in Keegan Murray. I think he's going to do it this year. I think it's going to be a huge step forward for us. And clearly, I'm a biased. Whoa, what's going on over there?
Fell down on me.
Technical difficulties.
I know. I had one just for you.
I appreciate that. Too much Kings talk. Your shit broke.
Yeah, exactly. See, I was gonna do a little chant for you too. I was about to give you a Keegan.
I love that chant.
That was really fun going to the game and hearing that.
that wasn't fucking fun at all. I hated that game.
Oh, I loved it. I thought it was really exciting. I don't know what was wrong with it.
Yeah, well, we could take that trip next Sunday if you want. There's a certain running back. There's a certain running back that's supposed to be back for that game, just so you know, against that run defense of the Dallas Cowboys. He's probably going to go for 200 yards and 4 touchdowns on your ass. So if you want to go to the game, we can go.
Hey, moving off one team that owns the Kings and moving on to another.
Pelicans?
The Pelicans.
Yeah.
Yeah. How are the Pelicans going to look this upcoming season? And bigger question is, who's playing center for them? Because right now, the starting rotation for the Pelicans this season on paper looks like this. Looks like DeJounte Murray, CJ McCollum. You got B.I. at the 3. You got Zion at the 4. And Herb Jones at the 5. 6'7", 6'8", depending on what you look at. Depending if he has shoes on or not, I guess. 206-pound Herb Jones is going to be playing center for them. Super interesting to me because Herb Jones landed on the NBA's all-defensive first team and 5th in Defensive Player of the Year voting last year. He's clearly a more than capable defender at this stage in his career, being 26 years old. He's elite level defender, especially on the perimeter. All facets of defense, really, in my opinion. Him being at the 5 is going to be super interesting. I think when people initially hear it, going from 6'11" Jonas Valanciunas to 6'8", 6'7" Herb Jones is something that people kind of go, what the fuck? Like, enough for ESPN to make an entire post on Instagram about how he's playing center is something people go, what the fuck about? Do you see this being like super significant for the Pelicans, like in terms of it hurting them or benefiting them? And on what side of the ball do you really see the biggest impact coming from?
It's positionless basketball, right? Like, is Zion still on the court? Because if he is,
fucking point guard,
right? So is Herb Jones really playing center when Zion's on the court? You know what I mean? Like,
You're playing zone defense anyway, so it doesn't fucking matter.
Yeah, it's positionless basketball. It's going to be exciting as hell to watch. Yeah, and the thing is if Brandon Ingram, who even knows if he'll be on the team come trade deadline, he may not be. But if he
on this offseason,
if he'll actually get his ass up and play defensively, he's one of the longest players in the league. Zion is what he is. Herb Jones is really good. It could be really good.
Yeah.
It could also be fucking terrible, which is why everything about the Pelicans, listen, I guarantee you this, they're going to win at least 4 games because they play the Kings 4 times. So we're not too worried about that. But yeah, I don't think it matters. I don't think the positions matter. If Zion's on the floor and Herb Jones is on the floor, I don't think it matters. Like, there's so few centers left in the league anyway. You know, I don't think that the 76ers are going to spread out the offense and have Herb Jones down in the post banging with Joel Embiid with 0. Yeah. Like, I don't think that's going to happen. You know what I mean? Like, I also think that if it's not working first 10 or 15 games of the season, they'll make a huge switch. I'm a big fan of Valanciunas. I do think that's a key loss for them, but I'm kind of here for it for the entertainment effect of, yeah, let's play his ass at center. Yeah, let's put Zion at point. Now, does Zion stay healthy? That's, again, this is a young player. This is a young player that we have health questions about. We have health questions about some of the older players. Can Zion stay healthy? What can the Pelicans do if Zion plays 72 games this year? What can they do? I think they could do a lot. I think that could be huge for them.
Yeah. And oh my gosh, acquiring DeJounte Murray is huge offensively for this team. Obviously, CJ is your traditional kind of spot up guy on the three, and bring in DeJounte who can create for himself, BI who can create for himself. I'm curious to see if they're going to go back to that point Zion type game that they ended up playing a lot last year until BI ended up getting hurt and it didn't work out anymore. I think my biggest thing is the rebounding game, right? You lose almost 9 rebounds a game when it comes to Valanciunas being off the court now. He's not there. And Herb Jones being at the 5. Who replaces those? Do we see Herb Jones all of a sudden he's been working on it so much that they feel comfortable enough to put him out there instead of a true rebounding machine? That's my biggest concern is the rebounding game. Because if you lose the rebounding game in the league, there's a lot of the times that you're not going to win the game overall. That's my biggest thing with this team right now. Outside of that, do you have any other concerns for the Pelicans? Besides when they face you guys?
Dude, DeJounte Murray, like CJ McCollum, Brandon Ingram, Zion, like, holy shit. I hope it works. I want to watch it. That sounds exciting as hell. I still can't believe the Hawks kept Trae Young.
I thought Trae was going to be the one that was going to be gone for sure.
I thought he was a Golden State Warrior, man.
DeJounte Murray was head and shoulders better with Trae Young off the court than Trae Young was by himself or those two together. He was more efficient. His numbers were better. The team played better. Like, everything about DeJounte Murray being control of the Hawks was better at the end of the day. Whether how bad or good the team was, they were better than both of them being on the court or it was just Trae Young. So maybe it's a little bit of loyalty thing to Trae, which you do see sometimes, and you kind of like sometimes that some of the teams will have some loyalty to some of the players. But yeah, I thought Trae was gone. I thought Trae was gone and DeJounte was going to stay. And
I'm going to make a small little comment here because this team is not listed anywhere in the rundown, and we've covered a lot of teams today, and we haven't mentioned them once. There's still a team out there with a certain Ja Morant and a certain Desmond Bane and a certain Jaren Jackson Jr., who they were the second seed a couple years back. Now, Ja's got some issues and he needs to stay off social media, but
putting it nicely.
I mean, that team could make a comeback this year also. This is the fucking problem with the West is like you take teams like 4 through 12 and there's like 16 different ways that they could, there's an infinite more amount than 16, but the way the Western Conference might shake out could go 100 different ways this year. So yeah, I can't wait for basketball to start. You know where I'm going to be at next Thursday?
Where are you going to be at?
Going One Center, like the beam, bitch.
Oh, you're going to be okay, bro. Jesus Christ. All right. Well, Drew's ready to get who do you guys play first?
I don't want to talk about it.
Is it the Pelicans?
No, it's not. I wouldn't have bought tickets if it was. Hey, it wouldn't have mattered. I wouldn't have gone to that damn game for free. Hey, Vivette could have walked into my work and said, "What's up, Drew? You're the best. We want to put you courtside for opening night." I'd be like, "Thank you, Uncle V. Who are we playing?" He just said the Pelicans. I'd have said, "Get the fuck out. I ain't going to no Pelicans game."
You're going to a Wolves game instead.
Yeah, it's not great, but I get to see Ant.
Yeah, that's fun. That's fun.
And because I'm moving this week, so I apologize for the echo. It probably sounds terrible because I'm in a big ass open room with no furniture. The parents are coming into town, so I'm going to take my pops, which is cool because me and pops are undefeated as adults. He took me to a lot of Kings games when I was younger when they were shit. I'm sure they lost a lot of games when we were there, but as adults, and what's funny is every time we go to the game, we always sit hella close. Yeah. And I always do the same thing. Oh no, I couldn't afford the tickets. We're up in the nosebleeds. Well, this time, those opening night tickets are the most I've like spent on tickets that weren't like the first 10 rows for a Kings game in a really long time.
Mm-hmm.
So we are upper level, but I did get row A upper level. So you're about the best as you can be, 50-yard line midcourt, row A upper level. So I'll be there. I'll be in my Reggie Theus, my baby blue, and we're going to light the beam on Ant's head.
Do you know who you guys play second?
I know the next game I'm going to is the next home game. It's the Portland Trailblazers, but that's not our second game. We play an away game on Friday, I think.
Yeah, you guys play the Lakers, we are going to talk about next. Next question, next topic is there is a brand new sheriff in town at head coach for the Lakers. How will JJ Redick shape this team's identity moving into his first year as a professional head coach? Not just the head coach for the Lakers, but a professional NBA head coach. How is he going to shape the identity of this team?
Badly. I mean, what are your expectations for the Lakers this year?
I don't know if I have full-blown expectations in terms of success or records.
Is AD going to be healthy?
That's the biggest thing. I think what we're going to see is we're going to see a large focal point, an offensive shift for AD if healthy. That's the biggest thing. Because LeBron last year still had a higher usage rate than Anthony Davis. I expect that to change. JJ Redick has talked about a multitude of times that Anthony Davis needs to be used more on the offensive end, that he is going to be used more on the offensive end. And we're seeing it a little bit, again, it's preseason, but we are seeing it more in the preseason, how much he is being used. And we saw a lot last night. He went off along with Dalton Connect. That was a crazy ass game. Bro went for like 35. He went for 20 in the fourth quarter. Shout out. Bro's crazy. Dude fell way too far in the draft, and I talked about that on draft night, that I couldn't believe how far that dude fell. But that's another thing of this team is not just AD having a higher usage rate than LeBron coming up in the upcoming season. The other thing is going to be probably shooting more threes. It's something that is going to be a focal point for this team. It's another thing we saw in the preseason. They shot 43s in the first preseason game. That's probably top 5-ish is where I would place them at the end of the season. That's an expectation for them. The Celtics last year led the NBA in a little over 42 attempts per game, and the Lakers were near the bottom of the league despite being 8th in three-point percentage. So they were efficient on shooting the threes. They just didn't take a lot. One thing that they did end up doing a lot of is they ended up we lost Drew. That's okay. I'll keep going. They did a lot of mid-range shots, and they were atrocious at it. The efficiency at the mid-range line was god-awful. So my expectations for the Lakers isn't really a lot of their record, where they're going to end up being seated, how good or bad they're going to be. My expectations are just more of we're going to see them shooting more threes. I think with the amount of movement that JJ Redick is going to implement into this team, it's going to be a lot of movement. It's going to be a lot of plays, getting wide open shots for these guys. D'Lo, Austin Reeves, they're going to shoot a lot of open threes if they can actually mesh together perfectly. The other thing, again, number 2, AD having a higher usage rate, potentially close to an MVP caliber season is what I'm expecting if he's healthy, because AD can put up those type of numbers if he's healthy. Defensively, we know what he is. He struggles defensively against some of the premier talent in the NBA at the center position. Outside of that, he's fantastic. We know the block numbers he puts up. We know the defensive rating that he can actually post. He's great. But usage on offense is something that's going to excel, which then scales back LeBron, allows him to play a little bit more defense because he's carrying a lot of the offensive load. Still, 40 years old now? That's the second thing I expect more of. Defense is going to be a big focal point for the team as well. It's going to be a little bit tough for JJ to want to do anything with this team defensively, with them having, though arguably the worst defensive backcourt in the league with Austin Reeves and D'Angelo Russell. Again, Bron won't play 100% on defense if he's carrying offensive load, so you have to take that away from him, put it on an AD, and you know what AD can bring defensively. But again, he struggles with that premier talent. We have still lost Drew. So with that, we're going to continue on with the show because we're not going to stick on the Lakers all night tonight. Unfortunately, hopefully he's here long enough to at least jump on with this next one. We're going to move on to the other LA team, and that's going to be James Harden and the Clippers. And I want to have a discussion about what are the expectations for this team. James Harden is now locked in as the Clippers starting point guard and the second best player of the season on this team with the departure of Paul George. Some people had the arguments on maybe he wasn't the second best player on this team. The Clippers were full of a lot of unlikable guys last year and still this year. Kawhi super polarizing, James Harden super polarizing, Paul George, depending on how you view him, is super polarizing as well, depending on the talent, the injuries, the podcast, playoff P, all that stuff. A lot of polarizing guys. Now with the departure, he's point guard. He's the second best player on this team right now. He's going to have to carry a lot on offense as a departure of those players and the additions of Derrick Jones Jr., Chris Dunn, and Nick Batum means that the Clippers have swung their role players in a more defensive-focused direction, which, again, it takes off the load for James Harden, who is never known for his defense, right? He's the best creator and passer on this team. By far, it's not even close. Whatever your opinions are about James Harden, he is still the best passer and creator on this team. And, excuse me, and in the games that Kawhi Leonard will miss because he is out indefinitely now at this time, he is going to be everything on offense for the team. So signing guys like Derrick Jones Jr. and Nick Batum, Chris Dunn, again, these defensive-focused guys. Nick Batum, a little bit shaky on that, on how much time he's actually going to play on this team. But with some of these guys who are more defensive-minded, it's going to allow Kawhi to sit out, unfortunately. But it's going to allow that James Harden to be offensive-minded. His three-point percentage rate, though, the 3-point rate percentage of total shots that are threes was 0.5. There we go. 0.594 last season, the highest mark of his career by a decent margin. And Harden's free throw rate, which is 0.418. Again, those are the percentage of total shots that are free throws. It's still good, that 0.418. It's the second lowest of his career. So what we're talking about is now he's settling for more jumpers and three-pointers than actually driving downhill and into the lane nowadays, like we were used to seeing in some of his olden days. So again, James Harden is going to be carrying a lot of this offensive load, and bringing in the free agent guys on defense is going to allow him to do that. The expectations are not very good for the Clippers, though. Last year, they really went on like this it was about a 12 to 15 game Cinderella run. It was like January to February, right before the All-Star break. They went on a crazy good run, this Hollywood run, and then they just dropped off after that. And they dropped in seeding, and they didn't play really well, and they looked like shit. I think that's what the Clippers are. They're not very good. They're not going to play very well. And there'll be a play-in spot, maybe. Drew, how are you feeling? I know you didn't miss anything because you're probably watching it live.
Bro, I came back and you were talking about James Harden. I thought about leaving again. Like we're talking about James Harden in the year of our Lord 2024. What the fuck for? James Harden.
That's your favorite player, along with Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. Those are your guys, dude.
You know, the Paul George, I really don't have no beef with. I just don't think he's a game changer this year. The problem I have with Kawhi Leonard is he was legitimately one of the greatest players ever, and then he screws over the Spurs, and then he goes to Canada and he wins a championship, and it was like one of the greatest stories ever. And then he bounces on him, and then he becomes a typical LA prick. It's just like,
yeah.
Oh, I'm hurt. I can't play. Oh, this. Oh, that.
I need Paul George. I won't come to LA if I don't have Paul. Yep. No, absolutely. So what are your expectations for this team in the upcoming season?
For the Clips?
Mm-hmm.
They ain't going to do shit.
Play-ins?
No.
Lucky? No? Whoa, they're going to drop below that, huh?
Okay. Let's just off the top of the dome. Mm-hmm. Number 1, OKC.
Yep.
Right? Number 2,
Timberwolves.
Minnesota. Sure. Fine. Great. Perfect. Number 3.
The Nuggets.
Okay. Again, sure. Fine. Perfectly. Number 4.
The Mavericks.
Ooh, okay. I like it. Number 5.
The Pelicans.
Do it. Oh, fuck you. Okay. Number 6.
Yeah, I saw the Kings here.
Okay. Number 7.
The Suns.
Okay. Number 8.
The Lakers.
Okay. So now we have Golden State.
Wait, hold on. I'm missing. The Grizzlies should be a lot higher. I'm sorry.
Where are you putting the Grizzlies?
Who'd I say at 8? The Lakers?
Yeah.
Bump them there. Yeah. Grizzlies are front 8.
Okay. So you got the Grizzlies.
Yep.
You got the Lakers.
Yep.
You got you believe in Houston, right?
Yeah, I'm cool with putting Houston in there.
Okay. We don't believe in Utah, right?
Nope.
Portland's
Nope.
like they'll win 18 games, maybe.
If they're lucky.
You know, are the Spurs going to be decent this year? Can they be decent this year? They got the defensive player of the year. No, okay,
No, not good enough.
okay. And then okay, sure. The Clippers will be in the plan. That's fine.
But we're having the conversation and we're scraping the barrel.
Can you name 5 players on the Clippers roster?
James Harden. Kawhi
Okay,
Leonard,
he doesn't count, but sure.
Terrence Mann.
Yeah.
Derek Jones Jr. Since we talked about him.
Okay. They just paid Zubac.
Oh yeah. Can't forget about him.
Okay. You're forgetting about someone who's got a song written after him. Mo Bamba.
Oh yeah, okay. Yep. And you said song and I forgot about Nick Batum. I don't know if you
I'm pretty sure they still have the corpse of Nicholas Batum on their team. Yeah. But anyway, there's nothing about that roster. Like James Harden's going to score 40 a night for this team to do anything.
And you still don't know if they're going to do anything at that point. Yeah, no, I'm with you 100%. Yeah, plans are probably the expectation for the Clippers.
Norman Powell.
Forgot about Norman Powell. I don't mind him.
Oh, yeah. What? Kawhi Leonard's out indefinitely. What does that mean? Indefinitely.
If he feels like coming back, he might consider getting off the couch and coming back.
Hey, I'm going on my lunch. How long are you going? Indefinitely. All right.
I will call you when I clock back in.
I don't have very strong opinions of the Clippers because Kawhi Leonard, are we thoroughly convinced that Kawhi Leonard is even good enough at this point to carry a team to the playoffs with James Harden as his number 2? And that's not even assuming that his health, which is clearly he's out indefinitely. So, you know what Kawhi Leonard's got a look. No, don't do it, Drew. But he does. I can't do it. There's a certain quarterback in the NFL that has guaranteed money, and anytime he gets hurt, he's just like, "Oh, I'm good. I don't want to play anymore."
Play wise,
minus the cases. Yeah. I don't think Kawhi Leonard goes and sees the massage therapist all the time like Deshaun Watson does. But there's Kawhi got paid, and now he's like, yeah, I'll play when I feel like it.
Yeah, it's a good comparison.
Listen, you know what I don't have? I don't have any inside knowledge on. Yeah, but intelligence, no. I don't have any inside knowledge on what it takes to become an NBA player, but I imagine that at the end of my work week, and just so everybody knows, I sit in a chair all day. At the end of my work week, on the 5th day, my brain is absolutely fried. I'm ready to go home. And, my 5th day is 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., and I'm ready to go home. I don't imagine the type of grind it takes to get through an 82-game season, to eat the correct way day in and day out, to keep yourself mentally focused, to get your body right in shape, and to do that when you have to be the number 1 player on your team, when your roster isn't any good, to fight for the 7th or 8th seed in the playoffs just so you can get bounced by a much better team. Does Kawhi even have that in him anymore? I'm not convinced he does. I don't think so.
Nope. Moving off of a not.
Of course, they're going to trade for Lauri Markkanen or something. I know they can't trade for him because he just signed his contract, but you can never count out LA. Damn them.
They'll figure out a way. Moving off of a disappointing team to a team that does have some pretty high expectations this year is how good or bad will the chemistry of Dame and Giannis be this season? For me, I think there's some improvements that both these guys need to make to really mesh, right? Both of these guys, before Dame was added, were the main focal points on their teams, especially on the offensive side of the ball. We saw growing pains, especially with Damian Lillard when they were first added together. And there has to be roles that both these guys play to take this team back to a high seed in the playoffs, second round, third round, whatever these guys are actually aiming for, which I know Giannis just had a quote out today saying something like, if we don't bring a championship back home this year, I might be traded or something like that. Giannis says some weird stuff sometimes, just kind of in one year, out the other.
I like how he says, I might get traded. Like he's talking like, they might move me. I don't want to go anywhere, but
it's like the oddest way to request a trade. For me, with those roles, I think that Damian Lillard, he's probably going to be the focal point on offense, right? He's the primary ball handler. He's the primary creator on the court. His biggest thing is his defense, his on-ball defense. It is what it is. It's not very good. He does have good hands, but he's a small guard, and you know that he's going to give some stuff up because of that. And Milwaukee's front office knew that and knows that when you're trading for him. It's not like Dame is a new player in this league. But when it comes to the off-ball defense, there is a litany of instances where Dame was ball watching and his man cuts to the rim or relocated to a different spot to shoot, and they're just open. It's a free open basket, and those free open baskets a couple of times a game, it adds up very, very quickly. It can't happen with the same type of frequency going forward. The focus between the off-ball defense and Dame has to be better in the second year going forward. And probably take some notes to some of the smaller guys in the league. Guys like Jalen Brunson led the league in drawn charges this past year. Lillard ranks like 79th, and they're smaller guards. If you can kind of bring some of that forward with yourself, it's going to be hard to change a guy who is as much of a vet as Dame is, and you're not going to change your game that much, as much of a vet as you are. But I think that has to be the primary thing for Dame. And for Giannis, it's going to have to be not being the focal point and getting used to that and helping Dame out, being a better screen setter. I know we're kind of picking small things out now when we're talking about Giannis, and it's like you're really picking on Giannis and doing stupid shit like picking on that. Yes, because guess what? The head is heavy, the one that wears the crown. Like, you're going to have to pick on the small things. So everything that Giannis is and how good he is his entire career. He's an MVP, he's a championship caliber player. Screen setting is the main thing for Dame. Creating space, creating opportunities for Damian Lillard is going to be a massive thing for Giannis. Those are the things I think they need to move forward with. I think their chemistry is going to be fine. I more have concerns about Doc Rivers and the head coach. Than their chemistry in this upcoming season. What about you?
Is Giannis going to stay healthy? And I feel like we could have just recorded myself saying, well, do you think he'll stay healthy? And I didn't even have to be present for this podcast because that's pretty much all I've said this entire time. But it just seems like some of the biggest question marks on some of these teams are their aging stars and if they're going to stay healthy. They flame out in the first round last year. They look awful. Giannis and Dame never got the time to mesh. I have zero belief in their head coach, which I know you just touched on, but I'm not exactly sure why. And that's coming from a Celtics fan. I'm not sure why people give Doc Rivers so much credit.
You hold on. You said it before. You said it about the NFL.
Yeah, give me props. Give me props.
Is like how much leniency and how much stock you get for winning a championship. Once you do that, like, I know we're switching sports, like Zach Taylor and the Bengals and stuff. We talked about that, how much stock and leniency he gets because he went to a Super Bowl.
Went to one.
went to one. And it's like the same thing with Doc. Doc wins one off of the back of one of the greatest big threes of all time. And, and
Overrated.
shut the fuck up. the fuck up. Jesus Christ. And he gets to ride off the back of that. And that's where
you sit here and parade around all your championships. The Celtics won a bunch of their championships when there were 6 fucking teams in the league. Nobody's impressed.
Yeah, that's okay. When's the last time your team won a championship?
1956. They were the Rochester Royals.
Okay, there you go. Your dad wasn't even alive. What year was Grandpa born?
I don't know. He's in his 80s though, so the 40s.
Yeah. So he definitely doesn't remember it. That's for sure. But yeah, so what you're more concerned about, just the health of Giannis and the coach himself?
Yeah, 1951. Rochester Royals. That's pretty good knowledge, isn't it? Just to bust that off my dome. Listen, when you only got one fucking championship in your history, you better be educated about it. Oh, I'm the Celtics fans. We win every other year. Who cares? Okay, 1951. Suck it.
There it goes.
Hopefully, that'd be cool if they beat the Celtics in 1951. They didn't, by the way. Yeah, so Doc, he's super suspicious as a head coach. He's been that way for a long. He just keeps like what Doc Rivers team has impressed you since like Lob City? You know what I mean? And was it even that impressive, his coaching, or was it just Chris Paul coaching on the court? Yeah. And then how do you unlock Giannis at his best is with the ball in his hands and him going downhill as quick as he can. Now, if you want to stick Dame in the corner, I'm not sure if the pairing makes sense. I'm not sure if it ever made sense. These are 2 ball dominant like players, and you can't put Trae Young and Luka on the same team and expect it to work out well. The usage ratings are just too high between the 2 players.
Yep.
And I don't even really know if the Damian CJ McCollum thing ever worked out all that well. They went to the playoffs a couple times, but yeah, I'm sure Bucks fans, if they catch wind of this, are going to be eating us up in the comments over this. Which is funny because our basketball stuff gets so much traction. If Giannis returns to MVP form and Dame can get back to Dame time, then I do think there's a possibility for this team to make a little bit of noise. But at the end of the day, it's just got to be really depressing to be an Eastern Conference team and look at what the Knicks have put together and what the Celtics have put together and then what the 76ers did this offseason and just wonder, like, do we have enough? You know what I mean? Is Brook Lopez still that guy? What kind of Chris Middleton do they get this year? Because there was a time where Chris Middleton was like, he's going to take this next step. His defense, his 3-point shooting, like what are we getting out of him this year? But besides that, it's just kind of, I don't know. There's not much to them.
Yep. Moving on to the last team that we are going to be talking about tonight, and that is going to be the 76ers. And our topic is, how legit or how for real are the 76ers this year? Obviously, they made a huge splash, convincing Paul George somehow to come to Philly and join the franchise in free agency. It's not really super duper often that a superstar changes a team on the open market. Trades happen all the time, but the open market's kind of a little bit of a different story. But while adding Paul George, they lose a couple of their key bench players, right? They lose guys like DeAnthony Melton. Chris Batum was on the team. I know Tobias Harris is super polarizing to 76ers fans. One year they hate him, one year they love him. So all 3 of them played at least 26 minutes per game. Key moments in helping Philly win games out there. It is a little bit of a setback because, yes, you bring on a superstar like Paul George, but if Paul George can actually play his role, I think the 76ers can be good. I don't I don't need Paul George to be the second option here. He is very clearly the third option, and you bring him on for defensive presence. That's what you want to bring Paul George on for. And he's not really like an elite level defender anymore. He's a good defender, but he's not elite level. He just needs to play his role for the 76ers to be good. That's what I think I'm really looking for this team. If he can't do that, and if the bench is too weak, and Joel Embiid can't stay healthy, and Paul George can't stay healthy, Tyrese Maxey can't do it all by himself. We saw that last year, even with the role players. You can't take worse role players, dump off 2 stars with injuries, and expect to be better.
And Paul George is already hurt.
Yeah. Yep.
And Embiid isn't playing any of the preseason because they don't want him to get hurt. Tyrese Maxey left the game tonight hurt. Mm-hmm. Now, I think it was just a hand contusion, not anything serious. But what do the added offensive production of Paul George offsetting Tyrese Maxey's development is an interesting question. It's an interesting discussion to have. And it's not like Paul George signed a 1-and-1. I think he signed like a 4-year, $200 million deal, didn't he? Like that dude's going to be around for the long run. And I just, it's a big 3 with a rising star in Maxey, but with 2 of those pillars injured all the time. Tyrese Maxey and Paul George, does that do anything for you if Embiid's hurt? No. Nope. Does Tyrese and Embiid do anything for you? Well, we saw that last year. We know it's not good enough.
Yeah. If Joel stays healthy, it's good enough to make, I think, the 6th seed. But I don't know if it really gets past anything further than that with just those 2. Again, you dump off a lot of the key, role players that you have on the team. That depth, it matters, right? And so the question is Drew, when did Tyrese Maxey get good? When did he really take a step? When James Harden fucked off and he left.
Yeah.
It allowed him to take a step up. Allowed him to start what he averaged last year, 28 points per game. It was a lot. He took his next step and he developed the way he was supposed to. And he got his contract. You bring on another superstar, if he can't fill his role the way you hope he's going to in terms of, hey, you're the third, not the second type thing, yeah, I'd be a little bit nervous for the development of Tyrese Maxey, especially you just paid him this contract, and then you pay Paul George 4 years, $212 million, and you're paying Joel Embiid a shit ton of money, and the 76ers team has a lot of questions surrounding it.
I'll tell you what, though. Do you know what's completely different about the 76ers than the Milwaukee Bucks?
Their head coach?
Bingo. There is made there. See, bro, that's why I like you, because we're just Nick Nurse, man. That is a different level of head coach, and he's really, really good. And I just think if anyone, I just believe for Maxey, I believe Nick Nurse is just going to be fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right. And then shout out Jared McCain. Hopefully he's all right after taking his fall. It sounds like he will be. But I think he's going to be a pretty good rookie out this year too. But not a lot of bench depth to this team. And I think that's the most concerning thing. How Paul George is going to play his role, how healthy Joel Embiid is going to play, and the development or the regression of Tyrese Maxey is going to be the biggest questions for the 76ers this year. They have a lot surrounding them, and it's hard to kind of pinpoint them. If all of them are healthy and playing, even with the limited bench stuff, 5th seed, 4th, maybe if they're feeling really frisky.
God, the play-in just changes so much, because if you can't get the 4th seed, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th historically didn't matter. It's like, well, let's rest these guys. Who cares if we get 7th instead of 5th? You know what I mean? Now with the play-in. But the thing about Nick Nurse is that a player...
They're not making the 4th seed, by the way, looking at the teams. I don't think they're making a 4th seed.
So first is Celtics, second is Knicks, third is...
I believe in Orlando a lot this year.
Oh, fuck me, man. You and the damn... They beat you guys one time, and you're like, you know what? That's going to be my second team. Orlando is just going... You're taking Orlando to be third?
Orlando, and then there's Milwaukee, there's the Cavs, there's the Pacers. Those are the guys who are...
Okay. Celtics, Knicks... Magic, Cavs, Pacers,
Cavs,
76ers.
Bucks, Pacers.
That's okay. So now we're at 7.
76ers, Pacers. They're somewhere in there.
What about the Miami Jimmy Butlers?
Is he actually going to take this year serious?
I don't know. You're the one that were peeing down your pant leg about facing them in the playoffs last year.
Is Terry Rozier going to stay healthy all season? Is Jimmy Butler going to be healthy? Like, I don't know how much I believe in all that.
What about Zach LaVine?
What about him? Josh
Come
Giddey,
on.
Zach LaVine.
Yeah,
Josh Giddey,
that's going to be exciting, bro. That's going to be exciting.
Hey, and Lonzo's going to be healthy. Shout out to Lonzo, man. Hopefully he has a decent year. It's nice to see him back on the court.
All jokes aside, that's fantastic. I fucking love that. Even though he was drafted as a Laker, I absolutely love that. And shout out to Lil Bro too. Like I hope,
Hopefully he stays healthy.
Hopefully, because he's fun as hell to watch. So,
Yep. I feel like the East bottom teams are so bad that it's like you have to propel these teams up in the playoffs. Pistons, piss poor. Wizards, piss poor. The Nets, piss poor. Like the Hornets, not good enough. The Raptors, not good enough. Scotty Barnes is not good enough to carry an entire franchise. Like, I like him, but he's not good enough. So then what, the Hawks make it? Probably not. It's like someone has to make that last seed, that 10th seed. I don't know who the fuck it is, but it might be Toronto. That might be the team that makes it in. If the Hornets, maybe, LaMelo takes the next step and he's healthy, maybe they could take that 10th seed. But
so
the Eastern Conference is probably going to look a lot of the same in terms of the teams that are in.
Reeling this back a little bit, because I kind of derailed laughing at you for putting the Magic at 3. Going back to the Sixers, fine. You think they're 5th. That's fine. Players, I who I think is an underrated impact player for them this year is Kelly Oubre, because
they re-signed him.
Him on another team where it's all wild and he's kind of just chucking up threes with that ugly ass shot of his. It doesn't work. But when I was looking through some 76er stuff, I read an article and they had a quote from him, and he was like, he said something about just he's water. He tries to be water. Like he just goes with the flow of every game and fills in where he needs to be. That is a highly educated way to look at yourself as a basketball player, especially where he's at. There might be a night where you need to go out and get 9 rebounds. You might need a night where you get 3 or 4 assists. You might use up all 6 of your fouls defending somebody. He scored 20 points the other night in one of their games. Like, have an understanding like that as a player, a role player, what you can succeed at and what your team needs is massive for him and his understanding of what he brings to the court. And I really like that. So, I mean, I wouldn't pick the Magic to finish in front of them, but that's fine. I'm okay with that. The Magic to me are super interesting because they do need to win the 3rd seed this year. They do need to be really good because they have to pay everybody. There's $200 million contracts that got to go out to all the young players on that team. So
come on, this is a pretty good fucking young team though, right? Jalen Suggs, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope went over there, so more defense on that team. Franz Wagner, Paolo Banchero, if he can take the next step because he's been fantastic. Wendell Carter / Mo Wagner, depending on who starts there. Jonathan Isaac, if he can stay healthy. Anthony Black, Gary Harris, Cole Anthony. It's a pretty good starting 10.
I like the team. I do, honestly. It's just you have to make decisions on this team very quickly because Paulo and his contract, Franz and his contract, and that's fine. I hope they're good. I hope Paulo kills it. That way I don't have to sit here and listen to you talk about Cade all the time.
Man, what's wrong with Cade, bro? You don't like Cade?
Bro, he's got like 17 career wins.
Yeah, that's okay, man. Cade's pretty good, man.
Okay, man. For those 17 wins, he was pretty good, man.
I mean, what do you want him to do? Like, there's nothing else around him.
And I think he should request a trade, actually.
Oh, shit. All right. Drew, do you have anything else to cap us off? Because this is it.
No, I do.
Okay, let's hear it.
No, give me a second.
Okay, he's...
Don't fucking dare.
I was about to.
Don't you dare.
Do what?
Don't you dare. Oh my Christ. Just talk about something for a second, okay? Fucking A.
But the clock is so much better than just talking about something. It's such a good bit.
Can't you bring some type of significance to this podcast for 30 seconds while I figure this out?
I love this. Well, while Drew gets his little thing together, because I don't know if it's gonna be serious or just a smart ass bit that Drew likes to do. If you stuck around to the end, you're sticking around live, I do appreciate it. Make sure you catch us every Friday night live for the NBA stuff. If you want to check out our NFL content as well, it's all on the YouTube channel, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. We go live either Mondays or Tuesdays, depending on what our schedule is. Sometime around the same time, about 8:45, 9 o'clock at night. So make sure to catch us there. If you don't catch us there with the NBA stuff or the NFL stuff, we end up posting the full episode the very next day. If you want our short form content, TikTok, YouTube, if you want a little bit longer clips of each one of these segments, you kind of want to pick through them, then go ahead and hit up our YouTube channel. And it looks like Drew is finally ready.
How many seasons has he played in the NBA?
Who?
Cade.
3?
How many wins do you think he has?
Fuck. 41.
He has 32.
Fuck.
He has 32 wins in his career. He was injured a massive amount of games his second year, but in 3 full seasons of the NBA, he has won basketball games 33 times.
Yeah, that's pretty good, dude. It's not bad.
I think what I need to do next is I need to look up Marvin Bagley's, because that might be catastrophic for how much time he spent in the league. God, I hate him.
Oh, that's amazing. I love that. Well, you have anything else to say to the people before we sign off and head off to the NFL for Sunday and then Monday and Tuesday?
Yeah, 2 things. Foreshadowing for our next podcast. Bang bang Niner gang. They're gonna knock them off. But also just listen, everyone out there, Sacramento resident, Jacob's a current Sacramento resident. Who knows? By this time next year, we both might be out of state. But just keep calm and light the beam, baby.
Yeah. All right. Well, it's October 22nd is the Quest for Banner 19. I hope everyone's going to enjoy watching that one. Be
Banner number 2.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, if you stuck around to that, we do appreciate it. And have a beautiful night. Drew, anything else to say to the people?
No, I mean, basketball season's upon us. We're in the middle of football season. The holidays are coming up. Just everybody, it's getting dark early. Just get out, enjoy your time, enjoy your day, enjoy your family, enjoy your loved ones. And don't be so mean to me in the comments, man. I try my best.
And tune in and hit subscribe, even if you hate us.
Click the like button.
Exactly. All right, you guys, we do appreciate it. Have a beautiful night.
Peace.
Damn, you were so busy you couldn't even get changed, huh?
No, motherfucker. I wear a black polo to work. The problem is all my clothes are packed. So it was either I had this or I had to wear my shirt, but I didn't want to wear my shirt because my shirt says Folsom Lake Hyundai on it.
Someone's gonna send you a bomb threat for saying Luca's bad.
Yeah. Or a bad Yelp review.
Yeah, there's that too. That's actually worse. Man, I'm curious to see how all this is gonna go over. One sec, hold on. I was telling her she can get back on the Wi-Fi because it was being slow.
Yeah, I mean, it was my internet though, because when it finally crashed and then I came back on, everything was fixed.
I told her to hop off the internet at the same time too, so my stuff was uploading a little bit quicker at the same time too. So I think it was a little bit of both of us. I'm also down here. I have a range extender that my PS5 and my computer are plugged into right now. So, but like I said, as soon as we hop off here in about 30 seconds, I'm taking all this down, and next week will be another kind of hodgepodge, but then the week after that, the studio should start coming to life. Okay, cool. Sweet, man. Well, I'll let
That
you.
was those were good topics. You did a good job on that.
Thanks, man. And
I
then
think it's gonna.
I asked my cousins on what they want to hear because they were tuned in. Literally, there was 2 people watching the entire time.
I think that there's gonna be. It'll be a little bit chaotic during the season to try to put together a regular segmented show.
Yeah.
But the great thing about the NBA, there's always some dude going for 50. You know, there's always something to talk about.
Yeah, and then once it goes like month to month, we can put out like our players of the month. That's a little bit easier because those are cemented. Like players of the week are so hard because some players play less or more than other players. So that one's a little bit difficult. But players of the month is a lot more cemented. So it'll be a lot better to put some of that stuff together. So that'll be pretty easy. So that's an easy once a month thing for a couple of months, and then just topics here and there. I expect the show to usually, because we were like hour and 40 there, like 7 pages of notes. I expect this to be somewhere around like the 50 to hour 10 mark every week is probably what we're closer to. And then obviously you'll be a little bit less busy. This was like you had your boss there and you couldn't really do much of anything, and you're moving at the same time. It's like the conglomerate of both things is like bad timing. So the next couple of weeks will be a lot easier to come by and come up with shit. But yeah.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if we're gonna if the Friday night record will still be. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so I wanted to talk to you about something about the podcast. So when we move, can I do this? I'm gonna wait. When we move, I have decided I'm gonna go back to school. It was something that Jen and I have been talking about for a while now.